Good morning, friends. Oh, today I'm so excited because we are going to be learning all about the solar system. Solar is a word that means sun. So really when we say solar system, we could be saying sun system. And when I'm showing you my picture today, I'm going to be drawing the planets in relation to where they are to the sun. So I'm going to put the sun up in the corner and we're going to have a big long line of planets.
But what I want you guys to remember is the sun is the center of the solar system and all of the planets are orbiting around it. So think of the sun as the star of the solar system because that's what it is, a star.
Now, if I was teaching this to you in class, I would be stopping every few minutes to have you turn to a friend and tell them something you learned. And there's going to be lots of facts today. I know when I'm able to talk about something I learned, it helps it stick in my brain a little bit better. So as I'm working on this today, every once in a while I'm going to say, okay, find somebody in your house to tell them something new that you learned. And you're just going to stop your video, share the fact that you learned, and then when you've done that, you're going to come back and keep watching. Can you do that for me? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. Since the sun is the star of the solar system, did you know the sun is actually a star? It's the brightest, most beautiful star in the solar system, in the galaxy. So I'm going to start by drawing the sun right here. And I'm going to use black only because it's going to show up a lot better. So here is our sun. The sun is made up, it's just a great big giant ball of fiery gas. The sun is super hot. I'm going to write hot in great big letters. Hot, hot. You might think your oven at home is hot. My oven gets to be about 500 degrees. Oh, if I touched my oven when it was that hot, I would burn myself. But the sun, just at the surface, is 10,000 degrees. That little symbol there means degrees. That's just at the surface. But if we stuck our hand down into the center of the sun, it would be 27 million degrees. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. That's at the center. So that's why it's pretty good that we're not living right next to the sun. In fact, the sun is 93 million miles away from us. We look up in the sky and it looks like it's right there and we could reach out to touch it, but it's 93 million miles away.
Even though the sun is 93 million miles away, it gives us all our energy. It allows plants to grow, it warms the planet, and allows us to be able to sustain life here.
Okay, I want you to find somebody in your house to tell them a fact you've learned about the sun and then come right back. Okay, we're going to travel to the closest planet to the sun. The closest planet to the sun is not us. It's the planet Mercury. Mercury, it starts with M. Mercury is a pretty quick planet because as it orbits the sun, it only takes 88 days to go around it. The Earth takes 365 days to go around the sun. That's one full year. But 1 year on Mercury is only 88 days. The planet Mercury is pretty rocky. It has lots of craters, big big holes in the ground.
You would not be able to live on Mercury. In the daytime, it can be almost 800 degrees, and at night, it can get so cold almost to minus 300 degrees.
The next planet, if I started from the sun and traveled to Mercury, the next planet I would run into is Venus. You'll notice Venus is a little bit bigger than Mercury, but Venus is a very different planet from Mercury. In fact, it is the hottest planet. Its atmosphere is made up of poisonous gas. And guess what it smells like? Rotten eggs. Oh, you would not want to get close to Venus. Besides it being smelly, it's very poisonous. It has a lot of volcanoes and mountains. So if you were looking at Venus, you would see that it looks like a really hot, fiery sort of planet. Okay? Venus is also special because it's the only planet that spins a different direction than all the other planets. It just likes to be different that way.
More than 40 spacecrafts have explored Venus, and scientists think that there might once have been water there. In the future, scientists who are exploring Venus are going to be looking to see if maybe there was once an ancient ocean there.
Now, I want you to turn to somebody at your house and tell them something interesting you heard about Mercury or Venus. Are we ready to talk about our favorite planet? The planet Earth. That's where we live. We are the third planet from the sun. Our planet is just slightly bigger than Venus, but our planet is the most special of all because it's the only planet to have known life. That means that we know we live here, but there's not any other planets that scientists know of that also have a living creature on it, okay? And the reason that we're able to sustain life here is because 70% of our planet is covered in water. You can't survive without water.
Earth is the only planet that we are able to breathe on. It has just the right amount of nitrogen and oxygen to make the air healthy.
The other thing that's special about Earth is that we have one moon. Here is our moon right up here. Now, other planets also have moons, but when scientists first discovered our moon, they thought it was the only one, so they just called it the moon. All of the other moons in the galaxy actually have different names. The moon orbits the Earth, and it goes around the Earth every 27 days. I better label the moon here. Moon. The moon is what we call a satellite, meaning that it's going around us. And the moon is super important because it controls the ocean tides. We're lucky enough to live close to the beach, so maybe you've been down to the beach when the tide is low and you can see the little animals scurrying around on the beach. And maybe you've been there when the tide is really high where the waves come up on the beach. That's the moon interacting with the magnetic core of the Earth to pull those waves in and out. Tell somebody at your house something interesting you've heard about the Earth. Okay, the closest planet to us is Mars. Mars is sometimes called, or always called, the red planet, Mars. The reason it's called the red planet is because it's really rocky and dusty, and there are minerals in the soil on Mars that cause the soil to rust, and rust is kind of like an orangey red color. So that's how it gets its red color. It is very, very cold on Mars. And Mars actually has 2 of its own moons. Now, I'm not going to draw any other moons on our diagram here because you're going to see in a minute I'd be here all day drawing moons. It's pretty amazing. So I'm going to write its special fact is that it's the red planet.
Spaceships have flown by Mars, and we've even sent rovers, little vehicles, to Mars to collect information. Someday, scientists think maybe an astronaut could visit Mars like they landed on the moon.
The next planet is super special. I love this planet. It's huge. It is the biggest planet of all. Look how big it is compared to the other ones. Maybe you're thinking in your head, oh, I know what that planet is. If you said Jupiter, you are right. Jupiter is a super big planet. It has 79 moons. And what's different about Jupiter than the other planets so far is that it doesn't have a solid surface. It is what they call a gas giant. Scientists think maybe if it has a solid surface at its core, it's super small. It's really made up of gases. One thing that is really amazing about Jupiter is that right here, there's something called the Great Red Spot. So when you're looking at Jupiter through a telescope, you see this kind of round area that's right in the middle of the planet. That is actually a giant storm. And that giant storm has been happening on Jupiter for over 100 years, several hundred years. And that storm on Jupiter is actually bigger than the Earth. Can you imagine the Earth being in the middle of a storm, like everywhere on Earth all the time, forever? That's what this is like on Jupiter.
We could not live on Jupiter, but some of Jupiter's moons have oceans beneath their surface that might support life.
Turn to a friend or somebody at your house and tell them something interesting you've heard about Jupiter or Mars. Okay, the next door neighbor to Jupiter is Saturn. I bet you guys know about Saturn. It is the planet that has all of those rings. Actually, other planets have rings too, but Saturn's rings are just the most visible. So I'm going to draw those now. Oops, let's write the word Saturn. Those rings are actually made of chunks of ice and rock that are surrounding the planet. And Saturn has 82 moons.
Saturn is a gas giant like Jupiter is, so it doesn't have a solid surface like Earth. Did you know that one day on Saturn is only 11 hours long, but it would take 29 years for it to orbit the sun?
Okay, we're gonna do the next two planets together because Uranus and Neptune are sometimes called the twin planets. They're called the twin planets because they're about the same size and they have about the same sort of temperatures, but there are still some things that are very different about them. Uranus has 27 moons. Neptune only has 14. Neptune is the windiest planet. But both of them are called ice giants. They are made up of icy gases, so it's super, super cold on Uranus and Neptune.
Uranus and Neptune both have rings, just like Saturn, but they're just much harder to see. And since those planets are so far away, there's only been one spacecraft to have ever flown by them.
Turn to somebody at your house. Tell them something you've heard about Saturn, Uranus, or Neptune. Okay, so let's count the planets that we have so far. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are 8 big planets in the sky. Now, there are some other planets that are called dwarf planets. That means they don't get the cool planet status, but they're still kind of important. They're just a little bit smaller than the other ones. There's actually 5 dwarf planets in our solar system. I'm just going to draw one right now, and that is the planet Pluto. See, it's so much smaller than the others. Okay? Pluto, even though it's super small, actually has 5 moons of its very own. And it is also a very cold planet. Think in your head, why do we think the planets over here are colder than the planets over here? Yeah, because these are the farthest away from the sun.
This is Pluto. The other 4 dwarf planets are Ceres, Makemake, Haumea, and Eris.
Okay, if we're thinking about what is up in the sky, it's not just planets and stars and the sun. There's lots of other things up in space, like comets. Comets are actually frozen gases, rock, and dust that are orbiting the sun. And as the sun heats all of those things up, it turns it into a giant glowing mass with this super long tail. And sometimes those tails can be millions of miles long. Can you imagine seeing these streaking through the sky? We also know that there are probably about 3,633 known comets. That means we know that they're out there. But there's probably millions more that we just don't know about yet. Guess what else is orbiting the sun up in space? Let's see if I can draw a few and maybe you can figure it out. Do you know? Asteroids. Asteroids are great big lumpy rocks. Some are really, really big and some are smaller. Asteroids are up there because they're the remnants of the planets forming like 4.6 billion years ago. When the planets all formed and came together, the asteroids were kind of what was left over. So they're also up there, orbiting in space. Okay, and you know what else is up in space? Meteors. You might call them shooting stars. What meteors are space rocks that fall through our atmosphere. And when they land on Earth, we call them meteorites. But meteors are shooting stars, space rocks. Turn to a friend or someone at your house and tell them something you've learned about meteors, asteroids, or comets. Gosh, you might think, oh, who would want to go up to space with all of the poisonous gases and meteors and asteroids and comets? Well, a lot of people dream of going to space, and we actually send space shuttles right up to space. Maybe someday one of you will want to be one of those astronauts that goes to space in the space shuttle and explores the galaxy. Let's draw an astronaut, and you can imagine that's you up in space. Astronauts have all kinds of protective equipment. They need oxygen that flows to their helmet because we know the atmosphere in space is not good for breathing. Their suits are white, so they show up against the black sky in space. And they even have some flashes of red on their uniform, so they stand out a little bit more. Okay, there she is up in space. Their air tank, they also have some jets on their tank that help propel themselves through space. But a lot of times they have a nice anchor to the space shuttle. So they don't get lost.
Can you just imagine what it would be like to be flying in space?
You guys take a look at everything we talked about today See if you can remember 1 or 2 more things that you can share with somebody at your house about what you learned about space and the solar system. See you next time.